So welcome from my side too, of course, and let's deep dive into the content now. So we're going to talk about customer centricity. Yeah, what is it, customer centricity? Well, how companies handle their customers and how they look at their customers has evolved a lot over time. It depends strongly on the company's history, on its activities, on the industry, and even on its leadership. Companies could go from just neglecting their customer to being friendly, let's say polite to their customers, but still looking from their own perspective, or going to customer focus, where we tend already to look a bit better at our customer. Some companies even behave like dictators, so they will tell the customer what to buy. Or some are intimate with their customers. They have a very deepened relationship. But customer centricity is much more than that. It's when you really partner up with your customer to help them reach their goals, to fulfill their needs. Yannick, I think you have an example of that within Armit.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Anne-Marie. I actually like the way and the different ways of focusing on the client are simplified in the little diagrams you're showing. And what I wanted to share with you as to really illustrate how customer centricity is embedded within Armit is the way we organize our pressure cooker. So what's a pressure cooker? It's a meeting workshop we organize at the start of the creation of our traineeship with the necessary Spocs and HR representatives at the client side. And it's really with the objective to define together the structure, content of the traineeship, profiles of trainees, as you can see, recruitment plan, selection process, etc. And I want to focus specifically on that first element of context and goals, because the purpose there is really to understand what the context is in which the trainees will start their journey and what the main objectives or strategy or purpose of the client and the current client is focusing on today. So our intention there is not only to answer the customer's requests, but really to challenge it. We don't want only to focus on thinking for our client, but really thinking with our clients. This to make sure that we can support each other in finding the right answers to their needs as from today, as present today, but also to make sure that we support their strategy on the long run and the strategy of the client's company, and assure in that way that our trainees will be future-proofed. So I believe that's a good example of how customer centricity can really be translated in something very, very concrete.
Indeed, thanks, Yannick. So it's now perhaps we should look at why it's so important to become customer-centric. Now that you have an idea of what it is or what we think it is. Well, today there is a clear big shift from just selling products to solving the need of the customer, from looking at unit margins to the customer lifetime value, to looking from looking to the touch points to the customer journeys. Or simply said, from selling products and services to selling a customer experience. The customer doesn't really care about organizational silos. They are just trying to, I don't know, for example, buy a home or pay a bill. But still, within most of the companies, the big companies, analytics, for example, are still done by product or service silo, not as the customer looks at them. Surprising, because if we look at, for example, a recent study of McKinsey, they said that companies working with customer journeys are 30 to 40% more predictive of customer satisfaction and churn. And the Wharton Business School, they said that market-driven companies, so here customer-driven, are on average 31% more profitable than self-centered firms. So there is a big difference. Lately, being customer-centric even became more relevant than ever, because first, it's the kryptonite to disruptors. A really nice quote from of one of the companies that we work with. It's the best preventive and post-protection against disruptions. If you see, there are mostly disruptions where customers are highly dissatisfied. A second thing that happened is social media and the importance of social media. Of course, everybody knows that you can get instantly destroyed by comments of angry customers, get bad reviews, and those bad reviews will lead potential customers away from your company. A third element is the expectations. A lot of information made it in such a way that customers have higher expectations today. And basically, the last best experience that customer had, they also expect at the newest purchase when they go to another supplier. And then a fourth element is commoditization. Difficult word, it worked. It's not anymore just about quality, because maybe everybody offers similar products, similar quality, but it's about customer experience. It's about being customer centric. So if we go to the next slide, it's clear that it's not anymore about a nice to have, focusing on that customer experience. Being customer centric has become a must have. Then the next question could be, who is your customer and who's your primary customer? To know that and to come to certain conclusions there, it's important to ask yourself some questions. Are you collecting all the data? Are you combining those data from different channels? Are you looking at feedback and asking for regular feedback from all your customers, not only the happy ones, but also the unhappy ones? Are you treating all the data? And are you combining the quantitative data and the open feedback? So some tips from our side already. First, do not try to satisfy all your customers. That's impossible, but focus on your primary customers. And there are different methods to come to calculations of priority matters. Secondly, ask your customers directly why they behave in such a way. So ask for feedback and look at why they are doing certain things. And then thirdly, make sure that you have all the data in an easy way so that you can really regularly update everything that you know and be sure that you have an easy way to get to all these data. So after having determined who our customer is, perhaps you could go to a first statement. Don't forget to use the chat. You will find the highest trust and loyalty with those who make their first buy. Do you think it's true or false? And I leave a few seconds just to get an idea. So don't hesitate, go to the chat, just tell us if you think it's true or false. Oh. Okay, there is a clear tendency. There is a clear tendency. Still, if you want your customers to trust you, you need to be deserving of their trust. That means being honest, transparent about what they can expect from you. And this should start right from the first direction. So avoid misleading sales things, excessive marketing campaigns. Don't try to grab your customers' attention with exaggerated offers of your product and so on, but instead aim to be as clear as possible about what you have to offer and establish a correct customer expectation from the start. So from the first buy. Let's go to the next. So now that we've already talked a bit about why it's so important, perhaps it's time to have a kind of definition of what it could be. Well, look at what someone expects from a brand. Mine is a subjective experience. Well, that's what we call customer experience. Or let me say it a bit differently. Customer experience is the impression that your customers have of your brand as a whole throughout all the aspects of the buyer's journey. It results in their view of your brand, and it impacts, for example, your revenue, So, not convinced yet? Well, perhaps I can convince you with the following numbers. Customers, if they are happy with your product and with the brand, they buy up to 20% more. And their customer lifetime value is like 17 times higher. So I think we have to be well aware that customer experience, customer centricity is now so important and that you can't do anymore without it. Before I go to the next slides, should we have a look at questions? Yannick, do we already have some questions popping up, or do I just continue?
No, I do believe you can continue, as I don't see any questions in the chat for the moment.
Okay, perfect, no problem. Still some time afterwards.
Sure.
So how do we now make our customers happy? How do we improve our customer experience? Well, as a concept, it's quite simple. Huh? You could just start from understanding your own brand. What are you offering? Understanding where you start from, your starting position as a company, and know what your business goal is. What is the goal of your company? Also taking into account the industry and so on where you are. But at the end, to really make your customers happy, this is what you should do. First point, make sure you collect the feedback of your customer at every touch point possible. And use some metrics. You can use a customer satisfaction score or the well-known Net Promoter Score or the customer effort score. Make sure your customers are set towards loyalty with a consistent meeting of what they expect. And use the data analytics, use the open feedback from your customers to continuously improve your products and your services. Make sure your customers come back to buy again, of course, but also that they spread the word about their experience. Leverage the momentum by upselling, get reviews, get customer references. You can, for example, also use the repeat purchase rate to see if people come back. And of course, use the reviews, the open feedback that they give to you. And then the last one. Note that we didn't say happy employees make happy customers, because we don't think that that's per se completely 100% true. But of course, it's hard to create happy customers if the person that has the most effect on the experience with the customer is not happy. So make sure your employees are empowered so that they can help their customers. Make sure your employees are happy and measure your employee engagement. So then I think it's time for another statement. If all air traffic controllers and pilots would follow the IATA rules by the book, there would be more crashes. What do you think? True or false? Use the chat, please. Okay, so I see a lot of mixed answers again, but perhaps a bit more of truth this time. So as we all know, the rules have been made for our safety. And of course, in a vast majority of cases, these IATA rules are extremely useful and they save lives. Still, we know that sometimes intuition and experience are even more important than these rules. And the IATA example shows two things, basically. What's best for the customer is best for the company. And that's basically at the heart of what we call customer culture, on which Jef will start talking in a few minutes. It's also, the second thing, it shows how important empowerment is. So by going against the rules, sometimes, lives of passengers can be saved. And that is only because the pilots are empowered to take decisions to go against those rules. So conclusion, internal rules do not always suit the interest of the customer, and an empowered employee will handle in the best interest of the customer and the company. So of course, the example is perhaps a little bit extreme, but still it illustrates quite well what customer centricity is. So, Jef, we said customer centricity is crucial. And to make sure that the organization works customer centric, I think we need a customer culture, right?
Yes, thanks, Anne-Marie. That is absolutely true. First of all, it might be interesting to tell the difference between customer centricity and a customer culture. Customer culture is, like the word said, culture. It's an organizational culture. It's a form of organizational culture, and that leads to behavior. So customer culture is a behavior. Customer centricity, on the other hand, is a strategy. It's something that you define and you execute, and the power of your culture, the strength of your culture, will determine how well that strategy is executed. Customer experience, like Anne-Marie said, is a perception, and that's for the customer. That's actually the only truth that exists. It's a perception. So to be very clear, customer culture is a behavior, customer centricity is a strategy, and customer experience is a perception. I think it's very easy to understand and to make a distinction between those three. Now, the test of customer culture, like I said, is behavior. Is like the slide said, the test of customer culture is in how a company reacts when something goes wrong. How do they recognize it and how do they handle it? And here is that first part. How do we handle when something goes wrong? It comes down to the behavior. Behavior is what we do. And sometimes it's said that customer behavior or culture or employee culture is defined by the way your employees behave when they're not being watched. But it's what they do. So how do you react if something goes wrong? If you react with that mindset of that culture that Anne-Marie also said, what is best for the customer is ultimately best for the company and for the employee, then you behave in a customer culture fashion. Then you have a strong customer culture. If everybody in the company has that mindset, no matter whether you're in a customer facing or in a non-customer facing role. So customer culture is absolutely critical. And research has found out that among the various organizational cultures that are out there, that customer culture seems to be the most potent one. And Anne-Marie also referred to the Wharton Business School research by Professor Day that said market-driven companies, and they can be said that they have a strong customer culture, or 31% more profitable. That is true. There is a direct link between the current level of your customer culture and your future business performance. So it's really very important. How you handle things, you know it when it goes wrong. Then you know how you're being served as a customer. So I cannot stress the importance of a customer culture strong enough. Now, when you have a customer-centric culture, is when you combine the behavior with the strategy. Like I said, customer culture is a behavior. The customer centricity is a strategy that says, if you focus on the select group of customers, the primary customer is the name of the group. If you focus the bulk of your resources and attention to those customers, the primary customers, you will get the customers with the highest long-time value, and you will benefit as a company. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to ignore the non-primary customers. It just means that you have to invest less in them. No company on earth, not even if you're as rich as Apple, has indefinite resources. So that's why customer centricity is a strategy. It's where do we invest our time, money, and effort in to have the biggest return for both the customer and the company. So that is customer centricity. So customer-centric culture combined means those two things. I hope that's a bit clear for everybody. Please feel free to type in remarks if you have them. Or if not, Anna-Marie and Yannick, if it's okay with you, I'll go into the Heinz. Okay, what we see here is Heinz tomato ketchup, a very iconic brand. And you see the bottle that we all know, the glass bottle. Now, one thing with that glass bottle, apart from the fact that it's really beautiful design, is that it's extremely hard to get your ketchup out of it. You have to really push the bottle, you have to hit it on the back, close the lid again, shake it again, and then either nothing comes out or the entire content of the bottle drops out. So they were looking together with customers actually how to solve that problem. The solution is on the right side. It's the upside down bottle, which is in plastic. It's upside down. You just open the lid and you squeeze the bottle and the right amount of ketchup comes out. It's very clean. That is a customer-centric innovation because customers were part of that. Now what we see happen within your customer, and it shows how diverse your customers are, is some customers want the plastic bottle and others want to stick to the glass bottle. And there we see a very nice division between customers who are evolving with you and who are making their lives easier, because that's all the bottle does actually. It's making your life easier by squeezing out the right amount of ketchup without getting it all over you or without having the entire content on your plate. Some stick very rigorously to the glass bottle as well. Why? Because in their customer experience, and like I said, this is a perception, in their perception, the glass Heinz tomato ketchup bottle is the only Heinz tomato ketchup bottle. So it's all in the perception. So within the same clientele, and Heinz has millions of people who are customers, both in B2B and B2C, you will have these differences and you'll have to cater to all of them. Now, slowly, the plastic bottles were disappearing because of the convenience of the plastic bottle. We do, however, see a return to the glass bottle, but that's purely to do with environmental reasons, where your customer is becoming environmentally conscious and says, well, this plastic thing is pretty handy for me not wasting my ketchup, but I'm polluting the world with the plastic bottle. So I return to the glass bottle and I will take the inconvenience of having to shake with. I'll just take that as a given. Okay, I see a question there from Dries, in the case Heinz, who are your primary customer? The primary customer is the one who is so loyal to the Heinz brand. And that can be, there is no demographic to put on it. It can be a 16-year-old girl, it can be an 88-year-old man who grew up with Heinz. It's a little bit like Coke versus Pepsi story. So the primary customers are really the people who are advocates of a Heinz tomato ketchup. And you cannot put them in a segment because they're so diverse. All you know is that they are lovers of Heinz tomato ketchup, of the brand. They're brand lovers. It's a little bit like with Apple, although with Apple you can start segmenting a little bit more. But it's really brand, what they call brand aficionados that go with that are the primary customers of Heinz, who don't want anything else. They want just ketchup from Heinz, because you have other brands of ketchup as well, of course. So in this case, it's really the loyalty with a brand and getting to know those people is very, how shall I say, it's very crucial for Heinz that they keep track of these people. And how they keep track, they're in the data, actually. So I hope that answers your question. By the way, just a last remark for Dries, it's a very good question. Who are your primary customers? It's one of the most difficult questions to answer for every company. Who are your primary customers? The correct definition of a primary customer is the select group of people who unlock the most value for your company. That's the official definition of it. Finding them that's another challenge.
Thank you, Jef. I was just wondering if it was possible to divide your primary customers between the ones that were the glass bottle lovers or the plastic bottle lovers.
Oh, okay, that.
But as you said, it might be the case that you actually have primary customers in both bottle lovers.
Well, that's a change that it's a very good remark, Dries. It's a change that Heinz noticed. The primary customer for Heinz until pollution became an issue were the ones who were going for the plastic, for the squeezable bottle.
Right.
And now they see a reversal. They see a trend coming that those people who went for the squeezable bottle return to the plastic bottle. If you then dive deeper into the data, you can start seeing patterns and trends on why they do that. Because clearly, from a functional point of view, the squeezable bottle is a lot better. So why do people return? And if now the people who return are the most potential for Heinz, then they will become their primary customer, which means another thing, that your primary customer is never set in stone, because companies evolve and people evolve. So does behavior.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Now, the customer culture is measurable, and that's a work done by Dr. Brown of MarketCulture Strategies. Actually started out as a research center. Now it's a consulting and professional education firm, which I'm part of. And how do you measure culture? Like I said in the beginning, culture is behavior. So the only way to measure culture is by observing the behavior and measuring the behavior. And Dr. Brown and his team found 8 disciplines, what he calls them. 5 of them are external drivers, 3 of them are internal enablers. If you look at them, they look pretty simple, and you go like, oh yeah, this sounds logic. But the first 2 disciplines, the first 2 external drivers are customer insight and customer foresight. Customer insight is, what do we know actually about our customers? And it's the extent to which employees monitor, understand, and act on the current customer needs and satisfaction. Beware that I said the employees. It's all the employees in a company. And what I said in strong customer culture is that every employee is acting upon the belief that what's best for the customer is best for the company. But the first discipline is customer insight. The second discipline is customer foresight. How do we monitor where our customers are heading to? How do we monitor where they are evolving to? Who will be our customers of tomorrow? How can we track that? How can we look into that? It's sort of like looking into a crystal ball at times. But how can we see that? How can we see trends coming up? How can we see shifts in behavior? That's customer foresight. Who will be our new customers? Or what else would our customers need? And then we go to competitor. You also have competitor insight and competitor foresight. Competitor insight is do we know who our competitors are today? Competitor foresight is, do we know who our competitors of tomorrow will be? Are there competitors that we should be aware of, but we don't see yet? We know that they're out there, but we just haven't found them yet. And this is where disruptors come in. Disruptors tend to fly under the radar, and then all of a sudden, they overtake major companies. A very interesting case, and this is the Netflix versus what was the Blockbuster case. Many business cases are written about that. The fact was that Blockbuster did see Netflix coming, but just didn't believe that they were a serious competitor. And Blockbuster went bankrupt in 2 years' time. So they went from a revenue from $6 billion to zero in 2 years' time. Netflix is now, the last time I checked, has a revenue of over $12 billion. So competitor foresight is looking at who are our competitors that we should know. They are out there and we should know them, and how do they threaten us? So that's the fourth discipline. The fifth discipline is peripheral vision. It's we talked about customers and competitors, but we don't operate in a vacuum. We live in a broader environment. Peripheral vision is what's happening around us, outside of the customers, outside of the competitors. What's going on politically, what's going on environmentally, legally, socially, technology-wise, environmentally wise, etc. So I said that the plastic bottles are now people returning to the glass bottles. That's has to do with peripheral vision. You have to know that changes are coming. Another example I can give is what every marketer knows, the GDPR. We've known for a very long time that it was coming. So you could prepare or you could stick your head in the sand, and then I think it was 26th of May 2019, it became a law. So what's happening on political, economical, social, technical, environmental level, that's the fifth external dimension or external driver. And it's the way you talk about these things and the way you collect, gather, and analyze the data and talk cross-functionally about it. That makes it important. So we go to the three internal dimensions, what we call internal enablers. This is empowerment. And Anna-Marie gave a nice example of empowerment for the pilots. It's to what extent can an employee do something that is in the best interest of the customer, but also in the best interest of the company, without having to ask for permission all the time. Can I do this? Can I do that? Reality is that not too many companies empower their people. We see now with COVID a change in that. Empowerment also has a lot to do with trust. I don't empower you because I don't trust you. A lot of employers that were against remote working now all of a sudden see that it's productive. So they change their mind a little bit about that. Then the second internal enabler is collaboration. And that is the extent to which employees interact, share information with other colleagues, or break down the silos, so to speak. Customers do not think about silos. They are not worried whether their case is in accounting or in finance or in warehouse or packaging, whatever. Collaboration means, do we as a company, as an organization, across the different functions that we have, do we talk about the customers? Do we help each other in solving that problem? So that is what collaboration is. Not sticking in your own vertical silo, but opening it up with one common topic of discussion, being your customer. And then strategic alignment is the extent to which employees understand and enact upon the mission of their company. To what extent does, let's say, just give does Anne is a fictional person, Anne is a fictional person working in warehouse. To what extent does she know how her role is contributing to the strategy of the company? To what extent are her actions aligned with that strategy? So in other words, how many people in an organization know what the strategy is and what their role in it is? So there's already 8 disciplines, 5 external drivers, 3 internal enablers. And you can measure that. It can be measured, and it's actually a benchmark figure that comes out of it. I have to note that although it measures customer culture, the name of this measurement tool is not customer culture measurement. It's the Market Responsiveness Index. It says, how do we as an organization respond to everything that's going on in the market from a customer culture point of view? So the score that comes out of it is pretty telling, and it gives you percentages or percentiles, I should say, in each of the disciplines, and then an overall score. And that means that being a percentile means that you're benchmarked against a database of, in the meantime, over 500 companies from big to small all over the world. I think we have more than 25,000 answers in that. So you are scored against that database. But it gives a very handy measurement tool and a score. It's actually a picture that is taken of where you are in your customer culture, how strong your customer culture is. And as I said before, that strength or that score is a very good predictor of your future business performance. So you can actually look somewhat into the future. If your score is low, you can see that my business performance is going to be, well, not so good. What we also established is that if you improve your score by 10%, or by 10 percentiles, let's say your score is 46, based on the insights of that measurement, you say, we make a roadmap, we want to increase our customer insights or whatever it is from the disciplines that you want to do. But you increase, let's say, from 46 to 56, there is an increase in profitability from 4%. So it is linked directly to the profit of a company. If you increase it by 50%, you have a 32% increase in profit. And that's the thing, the nice thing and the interesting thing about the work of Dr. Brown and MarketCulture is that they made behavior, culture tangible, and also found the causes of the correlation. Because there is a correlation between culture and the outcome, and it's a causal correlation. So that is in brief the 8 dimensions or the 8 disciplines of a strong customer culture. Okay, no questions? Well, I can go further in how to make an organization customer-centric. Well, I think we already said it. The first thing is to work on your customer-centric culture. Really instill that belief that what's best for the customer is best for the company. And once that becomes your second nature, it drops down to our unconscious level, and we just act upon it. We believe that that's what we believe. That's why we do the things that we do. And then we go to the customer-centric as a strategy. Here our next task then in becoming customer-centric is finding out who our primary customers are. And that's a challenging job. If you start out as a startup company, you have no clue who your primary customers are. In that case, you have to replace the word primary with the word dream customer. And you can say, well, we have a startup, we have a value proposition, and we go out on the streets into the markets, telling everybody this is what we have. But who are you going to tell it to? Tell it to your dream customer, the ones that you think would be your best customers. And they will answer whether they are or not. So that's the way to go about it if you are a startup. If you're an established company and you already have customer data, you can start looking at the data. And in 56, I think, there is a guy who, his name was Wonderman. I don't think anybody still remembers who Wonderman is. But there is actually an agency now called Wonderman, and it's actually named after that person. Wonderman is actually the guy who invented direct marketing. And he kept collecting data. He kept collecting data on his customers. And he said, who bought recently, most recently for me, who bought the most, who bought, who spent the most money with me. And recency, frequency, monetary value, that's RFM analysis. And that's a good way to identify your primary customers. They will emerge from your data. I know I'm going a little bit over time here. What you do then is you identify them and you look at how they behave. How did they behave? How do we attract them? How do we onboard them? How do we nurture and grow? Nurture and grow means how can we get more share of wallet? How can we get better relationships? How do we do things when things go wrong? Let's remediate. And everything has an expiration date. We have an expiration date. Customers have one as well. How do we offboard the customers in the best possible way? And you do that by making the so-called customer journeys, but you do that together with the customers. Okay. That was in a very fast nutshell. So I think we can move on. Then another statement. The worst you can do when you want to gain the trust of someone is to explicitly ask for that trust. Now, is that statement true or false? I say more falses than true. Okay, in the interest of time, actually, this is a true statement. The one you have to run away the fastest and farthest away from is the one who says, trust me, in the beginning. That's not how you gain trust. It has to do also with the first statement that we made. Customers tend to trust you more and are more loyal on the first purchase than they are subsequently, because then they have been confronted with something that goes wrong. So explicitly asking for trust is not the best choice. Okay, thank you. Yannick, okay, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Jef. I wanted to continue indeed again with an example, and it's only and very focused on the chair in the middle of the picture. You can see there. There's a lot of things going on in the picture. I want to focus on that empty chair. In one of the trainings, and it's linked more or related more to the trainees and the way trainees can impact on the evolution of companies and their customer-centric culture. It's called the Perspective Challenger. And we believe that listening to perspectives of newcomers can provide valuable information for an organization. And in the training session that we organize, the purpose is to give perspectives, new perspectives to the company, and that they're going to share with different stakeholders and collaborators of the company. And this with a focus on challenges that are recognizable within the company and can be of an added value for the development of the company. And it's the concept of being rookie smart, bringing a fresh, new, not yet shaped view on things that they can bring an added value. Why in that kind of situation is it necessary to put an empty chair in those kind of initiatives, workshops, brainstorming sessions? Because that empty chair is actually the one that the customer is sitting in. And it will always remind you of why are we doing this? What is the purpose behind it? And what is the customer or primary customer or dream customer, like Jef said, what is he or she expecting from this exchange, from these decisions we're going to make, and this involvement that we're going to focus on. So the trainees will challenge the company, but always with the principle of co-creation and thinking with, above the competence and skills they bring in their missions, but with specifically that focus on who is sitting on that chair and what can be an added value of the decision we make for that customer. So it's a very simple example, a very concrete of how to answer the how question.
Thank you, Yannick. Jef, I saw an interesting question in the chat, perhaps one that you want to take up from Sebastian. The question is, how can you build personas from customer data, and are there databases which link email addresses, home addresses to a kind of customer?
Yeah, I saw that question, and I was already typing privately to Sebastian to leave his email address, because it's yes, but it's a long answer, and I want to give Sebastian the real long answer, so he has some value from it. But the question is absolutely yes, you can build personas out of your databases. Not like this, but you can do that. Oh, and in the meantime, he gave his email address, so I can answer him.
Thank you. Any other questions? And please, if you still want to ask a question, you can always put your email address in there. We can contact you afterwards without any problem. But if not, then I think, Dries, you want to close up a bit?
Yeah, indeed. So thank you very much, Annemarie, Jef, Yannick. Dear participants, I hope you were able to take some advantage of the experience of Jef, Annemarie, and Yannick, our keynote speakers. This was only a very limited flavor of what Digital Scaler and Ormit is bringing to each new batch of digitizer trainees. In fact, our digitizer program focuses on activating the power of talent. We unleash new energy in your organization by training, coaching, accompanying your future change catalysts as drivers in business agility, and as shown today, also in customer culture and customer experience. So if you would like to receive more information on the Digitizer program, do not hesitate to get in touch with us. These are the contact details of both Lieve from Ormit and myself from Digital Scaler. We would be delighted to have a chat with all of you, of course. And I would like, as a closure, to take the opportunity, what Annemarie already explained. We should use every opportunity to check for feedback from our customers. So let's practice what we preach. So if you could still take 10 seconds of your time to give us, through the chat, a score on this webinar from 1 to 5. 1 being really bad, up to 5 having had the wow experience. So we are looking forward to your feedback.